Kyofu Chi no Yakata by Koga Shinichi. Horror, the Bloody Castle. This story takes place in South France. Horror, the Bloody Castle. The parents are driving with their 8-year-old daughter and the car breaks down. There's a castle nearby, so the father goes to see if they could stay there, get some help, and this is the Bloody Castle. He goes up, nobody answers the door, but someone does. Crush his head with the rock. And the mother's sick of waiting, as you would be, so she goes to see what's going on. Someone does answer the door, but this time they stab her in the chest. The girl wakes up in a storm in the car and she's all alone. She goes on to be raised by her grandfather, who works in a winery. Winery work is rough. He's tired. He's old and weak. Something comes up about a castle and stuff. He's kind of like fainting. Then she remembers the bloody castle where she was abandoned or lost her parents as a child. This panics the grandfather, who then passes out, or maybe has a heart attack or something. She takes him to bed. He's on his deathbed. His last wish is that she buries 2 small wine caskets in his coffin with him. She's out hitchhiking to go check out this castle when a lady picks her up, and they go to the bloody castle. For some reason, the lady goes inside the bloody castle with her. And again, for some reason, first there's some creepy statues and a cathedral in there. This is where they used to hold parties and seances and other witchcraft. This is Baros. People were put on the rack, and because there were still witch hunts back at that time, and many people were murdered for witchcraft. Baros was a rich witchcraft, like warlock. They're inside the castle, and it's really creepy. Some stuff starts to happen. For some reason, there's food out, so they decide to try to sit down and eat, but then fire shoots out of the fireplace. Also, there is a murderous cat that comes out, decides to attack them. The cat really messes up the lady. Then she goes to see that the cat is dead. She's freaking out. Wakes up in a bed. She hears some sort of noise and goes up to the attic, of course. More creepy stuff in the attic. She hears a noise and a head pops up. It's the caretaker. This old lady caretaker takes her to the owners of the house, which are a husband and wife. The husband and wife look familiar though, right? They also have a daughter who looks quite like our heroine, Remy. But this daughter is not doing well today, although it's her birthday. Her bed starts levitating. She starts to freak out. Her bed starts spinning around. She starts convulsing and screaming. Somebody gets crushed by a door, it looks like. Her head spins around like in The Exorcist. Classy. KKK. Then the father is crushed by a dresser. The father, the husband. And the young girl is still freaking out. There she is. Something's coming out of her mouth, which I do not think is a tongue. Oh, she's in all sorts of trouble here. Yeah, still freaking out. Looking like a zombie. Or possessed. Then the place starts to come down. All of a sudden, Baros comes out of the wall. The father's heart was torn out too. Now the mother starts to have some creepy stuff happen to her, and her heart comes out. There's evil cat again, and the girl runs away from the bloody castle. She gets back home, and an old lady from the village says lots of people go missing around here. She says, that was my mother and father then. It's their ghosts. And she runs away to the graveyard where her grandfather is buried. She's crying over his grave, of course. His hand pops out of the grave. She fails to notice this, but while she's freaking out, a friend, Philip, arrives. Philip has come to help. Who is Philip? I don't know. But they go back to the bloody castle. Ominous crows, or bats, looks like crows. They go inside, it's still creepy as ever. Spider webs, creepy statues. Creepy statues start to break and fall apart. More creepy. They decide to go down to the wine cellar. In the wine cellar, Philip says, I'm getting to the bottom of this, breaks open a wine casket to find a dead body. This one looks like the mother. Or the lady who lived there, the wife, but you know. This one looks like the father. This one looks like the young girl. This one looks like the caretaker. They all are dead bodies. And just so you don't forget, we are in the bloody castle. Castle of blood. Somebody's not happy. They try to crush them with a rock, but Philip is more spry than Remy's father was, and they get out of the way. They go back inside to more creepy stuff. Bado's had a whole bunch of occult books. The occult books talk about how to bring people back from the dead it's really long and complicated, but basically a living person's heart fermented in wine, and that's how you bring people back from the dead. Creepy stuff going on. Where's Philip? Searching. Not Philip. There is a dead body chained to the wall. Dun dun dun. Then she picks up the axe that was dropped by Philip for some odd reason. Someone's creeping around the corner. She strikes it, and it turns out to be her dead grandfather. So he feels bad, so she takes him to bed. She nurses him very quickly back to health, even though he was struck by an axe. He's kind of creepy because now he's reaching for the axe. There's a noise. She goes off to investigate. She sees a trail of blood, somebody hiding behind a curtain. They run away. She's like, what's going on? She goes. She finds Philip. Philip has been struck with an axe too. Why did you run away from us? What's going on here? Your grandfather killed your mother and father. No way, I don't believe it. Yes, it's true. He's the one who crushed them with a rock, crushed your father with a rock at least, and stabbed your mother. Then the grandfather pops up. He's like, I raised you since you were a child. Why would I do that to you? She runs over and hugs him. He says, I'm thirsty. Can you go get some water? She takes off to go get some water, and he throws the axe into Philip's back, and Philip is dead. Philip helped very little at all through all of this. Now she comes back, and the grandfather says, Philip just went home. Let's go home together too. Then the wine barrels don't want him to do that. They go crazy, start rolling around, hit him. And it was not the grandfather at all. It's 300-year-old Bado's. Bado's does a magic spell while the girl tries to escape, summoning a snake that trips her onto her face. He then summons a bunch of other creepy animals that start trying to kill her. Wild. The wine barrels do not like this at all. They now come to attack Bado's, the real Bado's. And of course, these wine barrels are full of dead bodies, which Bado's put in the wine barrels himself. They are now getting their revenge. They blast him right out the window of the castle, tossing him to his death. He then turns to dust because the magic is worn off. The statues start to break, and the whole place starts to come down. She escapes with her life, and the whole village buries everyone involved, all the dead bodies involved, deeply in the cemetery. And that is Kyofu Chi no Yakata.